Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your producer and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about retreat-style healing and even how you can do that at home with Dr. Lori Bouchard. And before we get to that, I just want to give a shout out to all of you that listen to the podcast on audio because you have to endure every time I do a video, I do the same disclaimer. And that's for the YouTube people who are searching my guest or searching content and they don't know me. So it's a much different energy, and I appreciate you hanging in, understanding that. It has definitely decreased the amount of people who get angry and annoyed that I talk, which I always find funny since this is my show that I pay to put out to you. So thanks for hanging in there. Before I tell you a little bit about Dr. Lori Bouchard, who's with us today on the show, and there is a video, I want to announce and reiterate for those of you that have been with me for a while, I have opened up applications for the Empowerment Strategist certification. It is only open for 6 people in 2022. And obviously it's coaching with me. It's learning the tools that I use and applying them to the clients that we have in this program ongoing. But first, it has to be something you're wanting to do for yourself. If you are unwilling to do the work, you can't teach the work, in my opinion. If you aren't willing to be uncomfortable or look at yourself in the mirror or deal with your inner child or deal with your core wounds, then you really, I don't think you're in a position to help somebody else. Hopefully you agree with that. So if you're interested, you can go to jjflazanes.com/cert. It does not cost anything to apply. We get on a quick Zoom call after I look at your application, and then we chat about it to see if it's a fit. Everyone is not a fit. And again, there is no cost to apply. So jjflazanes.com/cert. I have also opened up applications for people to coach with the Empowerment Strategists, and that is new since the last show. So if you would like to work with one of the trainers or with more than one of the trainers, because we definitely offer that as well, we offer a couple different packages, and you can even have a case study where we all kind of come together, and then from there choose who you want to work with, whether it be one person or more than one person. Maybe you were attracted to a couple of them if you heard the episode that we did about changing the world through healing yourself. So that is jjflazanes.com/coaching, because we want to make sure it's a fit for everybody. We don't really want to take somebody's money and have it not be a fit. Now, we do have multiple coaches, but we also don't want it to be that it's somebody new who hasn't listened to the show, who really has no idea what's happening. We obviously are very specialized in the kinds of coaching that we do, the tools I've talked about on the show. And if this feels like a fit, again, fill out an application and we'll jump on a call and see if this is the right program for you to work with one of the trainers. jjflazanes.com/coaching. Both links will be in the show notes. One last announcement. In a week from now, I believe, a week and a day, I will be hosting a free workshop, February 23rd, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, called 3 Reasons Why Traditional Talk Therapy is Ineffective. And whether you have success with your therapist, and that's cool, and then you don't need it, no worries. If you've ever felt like there's something missing, there's something more, is this all there is? Why isn't this faster? Why don't I feel better? Why do I feel bad? Why hasn't anything changed? If that is you or anyone that you know, please invite them to this free workshop, jjflazanes.com/therapy. Again, February 23rd, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded, but I am cooking up a good gift for those of you that come live because it's much more fun to work with you live. And then, of course, there's going to be a live Q&A. jjflazanes.com/therapy. I hope to see you there. So Dr. Lori Bouchard is an author and entrepreneur and licensed naturopathic doctor. She completed her degree in health science at Western University prior to completing her doctorate in naturopathic medicine, a 4-year full-time program at the prestigious Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto, Ontario. She is the author of Live Longer and Stronger with Breast Cancer and Cancer Doesn't Own You, endorsed by U.S. presidential candidate and 7-time New York Times bestselling author Marianne Williamson. Both best-selling books are step-by-step guides to boost health and help fight cancer more effectively. She is the owner of Oakville's most innovative naturopathic healing center, Inside Health Clinic, which has been helping men and women reverse complicated diseases such as Lyme, chronic fatigue, Hashimoto's, and infertility for over a decade. She is a metabolic trained practitioner through Dr. Nasha Winters and registered through the College of Naturopathic Doctors, Ontario, as well as a member of the Ontario Association of Naturopathic Doctors, Canadian Association of Naturopathic Doctors, and the Oncology Association of Naturopathic Physicians. I hope you enjoy today's show. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm excited to bring this conversation to you today. We're going to talk about healing and health in a new way. And I'm excited to bring on Dr. Lori Bouchard. She is one of the Metabolic Approach to Cancer doctors with Dr. Nasha. And again, if you are finding this on YouTube or somewhere where this video is posted and you're specifically coming to see Dr. Lori, or you want to know more about what she does and you don't necessarily love me, that's totally cool. So we're going to send you wherever Dr. Lori is, which is going to be drlori.ca is her website. And I believe you can also type in her name, Dr. Lori Bouchard, on YouTube. And do you have a YouTube channel as well?
Not yet. It will be coming though. So,
okay. But you can find any other videos that she has. So you can get more of her. You can also follow her on social media. She's got an Instagram account, Dr. Lori Bouchard. She's got a Facebook account. So you can go there for more of her if you don't love me. But just so that you know, I will be having a conversation. All right. So now let's get started. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you know that we're doing this on the video now. So come on over to jjflazanes.tv so you can see Dr. Lori. I don't know that we'll do any show and tell, but it's a fun conversation. She's beautiful. And she's sitting outside in Canada where she lives and where no, not in Canada.
No.
Ooh, where are you?
We
moved
it down. Yeah, we're in St. Kitts.
Where's St.
Nevis?
Kitts?
St. Kitts and Nevis. It's near Puerto Rico.
Oh my goodness. You have literally gone there. Okay. So you're still in a beautiful place. So excellent. Well, good to know. So Dr. Lori, welcome to the show.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
It is. So first, let's talk about, so today's topic is retreat style healing. And I'm all about retreat style healing emotionally. It's one of the reasons why even during COVID, I continued minus 1 year, 2020. I didn't do a live event for the public, but that was already scheduled before everything happened. But then 2021, I was like, come hell or high water, I'm doing a live event because I needed that retreat style healing. Now we're talking about not only the value of doing that at a clinic, but you have been helping people do that at home in the last 2 years to get that same impact. So before we get to retreat style healing, what that means, what you can do, why you need to learn how to use it, because you don't want to go somewhere, do all the great work, come home and have it go to shit, right? You have to be able to recreate it at home. Otherwise it doesn't last. And that's part of the problem and opportunity with some of these workshops and retreats is what happens when you come home. But tell us even how you got into naturopathic, becoming a doctor, working with Dr. Nasha, dealing with cancer. How did you get here?
Yeah. So I was raised very naturopathically. My mother never took me to a medical doctor. When I was sick, I'd say, Mom, why can't I go and get antibiotics? Why can't I go be like my friends and just get a quick pill and feel better? She was like, your body is amazing and you need to drink more water, have this handful of supplements. So every hour she would lay out cups of vitamins for me. I was basically like shoved down the throat with supplements my entire upbringing. And I was actually rarely sick, rarely. And so I would see my friends who would have their appendix taken out, their tonsils taken out, have sick days all the time. And then it was only until high school where I realized, okay, maybe my crazy mother, there's something to this. Maybe there's something to this. And so that led me into naturopathic school, where I studied how the gut has a huge impact in how we feel, how our mental health, our immune system, looking at all the things. And so it was when I graduated from naturopathic medicine where I started to actually see this in clinical practice. So I felt it with my own health, but with other people, when they would come in and they'd say, I've seen every neurosurgeon, I've seen every specialist, like all the different organ systems, they've seen all the best in the world to heal their disease, but they never once looked at nutrition, toxicity. They never looked at even emotional health, like what else is going on in their system. It was my first cancer patient actually that changed the whole way that I practice. He was given a month to live. He was told if he did one more chemo session, he would be toast. Like there's just no, so his family's like, get everything in order because he has a month to go. So he came into my clinic in his wheelchair. He's like, you know what, you're basically my last resort. I'm willing to do whatever you say. And so literally what I did with him was so foundational to what a human body needs to survive. This patient ended up living 8 years longer. So he had almost a decade longer of life, and he is the one that actually recruited all these other cancers. So that's what attracted me to Naisha Winters as well, because my clinic was really just filled up with cancer at that point. And I never thought I would be a cancer focused doctor, but anything that's complicated, where people just want those results, they're eager, they're really excited about getting healthy. And yes, a lot of times it is a last resort, and that's fine. I'm totally okay with it. But they've tried everything, they've done everything. And I just have so much faith in the human body and how it works that I've seen miracles all the time when people were ready to give up and at death's door. And when they come in to see me, we do various testing, we sit down for an hour, we actually understand what is going on in their system. So that's the Coles Notes quick version of how I got into this. Started with my mother, who I thought was crazy at the time.
Well, that's amazing. And I want to dive into a little bit, if you're willing to tell us a little bit about that patient's journey in terms of where did you start with him and how did you get him, are you willing to share what you did from the start to literally in order? We did this and we did this and we did this and we did this.
Yeah. So with this patient, he was, like I said, in a wheelchair, slumped over, just extremely depleted. That's just the best word for him. Malnourished, even though he was eating a lot, actually, couldn't put on weight. So when doctors say, you need more calories, eat whatever you want, you can't lose more weight, that is absolutely, as we know, not true. With the cancer metabolism, it's just not going to, you're not going to gain weight at that point. So with him, we actually, after so many chemotherapy sessions, I decided to test his heavy metals just to see what was blocking his absorption at this point, why his hemoglobin could not go above 90. He was getting blood transfusions every month. So he said, if we can even just get this level up and not have to do these annoying transfusions, that would just make my quality of life even better. But this patient just wanted to survive another 6 months. He actually wanted to survive till Christmas and be with his family. That was his goal. Actually, he really wanted to survive till the spring to play golf. That was kind of the underlying there. So we tested his heavy metals. His lead was through the roof. And it's interesting too, because we actually looked at chemicals for him as well. And because he was a golfer most of his life, he was always the first one on the fields and he was inhaling these glyphosates. So we don't realize that just everyday chemicals that people are exposed to is slowly, if you don't have a metabolism that can get rid of these things, they're slowly just accumulating over the years. Because this patient actually thought he was healthy his whole life. He's like, I'm the healthiest person you'll ever meet. And I've never had health issues. And all of a sudden I developed cancer. Right. And so for him to actually see it's more his wife at this point, looking at all the data of his body is filled with glyphosates, filled with lead. There's all these things that are just sitting in his body. How on earth can immune system focus on fighting cancer? So this person had lymphoma, T-cell lymphoma, and multiple myeloma. So 2 different types of cancers. Slowly, we were able to detox him in a very safe way because his kidneys, of course, were just shot after so many chemo sessions. So the typical things like chelation that I would normally do with other people, with him, it just felt too aggressive. So we had to go very slow. We introduced if you look at what we did, a lot of people would say it's very woo-woo, but we did coffee enemas. We started doing some greens, right? Things that are just very gentle chelating. We did IV high dose vitamin C therapy, which was over 50,000 milligrams, is actually cytotoxic to cancer cells. So to have at that dose where his body could tolerate it, slowly he started turning around the corner. And what else did we do? We added in mistletoe therapy. We added in ozone. We did a lot of very powerful things to help clean up his system, but not nearly what it was it's all beneficial. There's no side effects to what he was doing. It's just every day getting stronger and stronger, which is incredible what the body can do, right? Even when you're at your last day, there's so much that you can do when you actually nourish it properly.
No, I love that. That's great. And I have probably more questions from that about the whole testing and getting that stuff tested and using, can a person, and I think I've even covered this, Dr. Chris, and I covered a little bit, in terms of testing glyphosate and testing metals. I know there are tests for that. And most of the people do have to go through a doctor to get that tested, right? They can't do it on their own.
Exactly. Yeah. So you'd have to find a doctor that can give you that test.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's,
And then deciding on the treatment. So like you said, chelation would be too aggressive at the weak point of his body at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So you did something less of working with someone like you to figure out what that means and what route do we go based on the circumstance. So that's amazing. That's a great story. I think that's like, if you haven't told that story over and over again, keep telling that story because that's a great story. So in terms of leading to this retreat style healing idea, when did you start implementing that? And was it just for cancer patients, or were you doing that with everybody who walked in your door?
Oh, I would love to do this with everybody that walked in my door, because it's really like the ultimate cleaning up the system. I actually do this retreat style healing 3 times a year just to help with my mental clarity, how I feel, give me energy. I have 3 young kids, so I just need to be on my game and not snap at them all the time. But the people that generally do the retreat are the ones who are living with chronic Lyme, the ones who have just like complicated conditions where they say, my doctor has given me 6 different medications. I just feel worse, worse, and worse. I can't work anymore, whether it be chronic migraine. We had someone last week with extreme fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, like anything that they've been living with chronically, or even if it was even something more acutely and it just taken over their life and they want to do something personalized and I don't want to say aggressive is not the right word, but very integrative. So most people want those quick results. They fly out to Mexico or they fly somewhere, do this week-long retreat. And I mean, to me, that sounds amazing too, right? To go somewhere and for my body just to be taken over, like hand over my body, do all the work. So that's what we do in the clinic, but it's different because we change the protocol drastically depending on what their chemicals are like, what their hormones are like, what their body, like what is going on. So we don't have like a standardized protocol like many of the retreat style clinics do. And that's where I find is the difference, because some people who do a protocol, just say like the Gerson protocol, that might actually accelerate certain cancers that are driven by glucose, right? Or driven by like that high sugar load. So it's very different. We look at their blood sugar levels, we look at inflammation levels, how they're processing, even genetics, because even certain genetics SNPs, they process chemicals very differently or stress differently. So we take all that information and we create a retreat healing that's like 9 to 5 of immersive taking over their body and what they can do to feel better.
Yeah, it's highly personalized. And I love that. Yeah, you were talking about not necessarily the word aggressive, but having it be, it's an immersion kind of therapy, right? Like they're immersed.
Exactly.
Yes, you're
it's
immersed.
Like, the best way I would even describe it is it's like inertia, when you just get like flown into something and you just get that accelerated push and how your body can heal. Because when people are feeling so crappy and so tired and drained, like even the thought of them juicing themselves, like that is so exhausting. It's probably not going to happen. And so we take it very like step by step, what they can do to prep for this at home retreat. And then we have like literally a 9 to 5 schedule that they can do. And they can do it just like even lying in their own bed. It's very immersive, yet very simple for them to do at home.
So we're going to talk about the retreat style at home, but I want to back up for a second. Are you still doing retreats in person at all?
Yes. Yeah. So in my clinic in Oakville, Ontario, in Canada, we have the only retreat style healing clinic in North America, actually, that takes people. And we have an Airbnb above us, a condo. So people would rent out that condo above us, come down for the treatments. They would be there from literally 9 to 5. We offer all the juices, all the soups, the nutrition, and all the services. We have nurses on staff, the colon hydrotherapists. We have a whole team. There's 10 of us that are very focused on these people that come in. So you don't have to even think, literally. You're just told, okay, now there's this treatment. You're going to do acupuncture now. You have your adjustment now. It's personalized for them, but in the clinic is something that I think ultimately is the best way to turn over your health.
Excellent. And how long are these retreats?
So it would be a Monday to Friday. There's a few patients who would stay 2 to 3 weeks because they are dealing with a stage 4 cancer or a more aggressive cancer. Because you think of, if someone has been ill for decades of their life, And then they think, okay, 1 week is just going to solve all of their problems. Like cancer can take up to 10 years to even form and develop to even see the tumor. So for them, it's a big learning curve from people, like I said, the first patient who said, I've always been healthy. Meanwhile, he's eating like steak, potatoes, and doesn't know what a vegetable is. So for him to think that, because he's never had a serious condition and that's how he defined health, a lot of people think like that. They actually think, well, this just came out of nowhere and it's just like plopped in my body somehow. So it's a huge learning curve. Most people do stay 2 to 3 weeks of the retreat.
Yeah, I love that because I don't have a serious disease, it means I'm healthy. No. Health is not, I'm devoid of a disease that I can test right now and come up positive with.
Yeah.
Health is a whole nother level that most people have no awareness of. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was posting memes like that on during early 2020 when people are like, I'm healthy. I'm like, no, you are not healthy. You are not a healthy person. And so you are more susceptible to getting sick because you think health is, I don't have a disease or I don't have a current disease that's, we can diagnose. But that's a whole nother show, possibly to look at what that is, right? That's ridiculous. So now, obviously with what's happened in the world, you have moved to teaching people how to do this at home, which is great because again, that integration from a retreat into, I know for me, one of my, at a retreat, I mean, I'm always wanting to encourage the path, like, okay, so you can come and you can have a great experience. And I'm going to also offer you ways to continue the momentum of this. And if it doesn't come from me, that's fine, but just get something to keep you accountable to the momentum of this, because you'll go home in your habits and you may revert back to the patterns that you had before. And therefore your results will be diminished because you're just going back to the same things you were doing before. So in a retreat style healing at home, which is awesome for the ones that can't get to a retreat right now or won't. But then again, to prolong, if you will, or not even prolong, but to create an environment, a long-term environment for healing and health. What does that look like when you're working with people?
Yeah. So there's 3 different phases of this retreat, because what people think that they can do is just jump into something that's very immersive. And if their detox pathways aren't open, like they're going to feel like crap the entire time, right? So we have a prep phase, we have the retreat phase, and then we have a maintenance phase. So within the prep phase, it could be from 1 to even 4 weeks of just prepping their body to how they detox. So we look at the blood work, like most people, they think they've been healthy, like we said. And so there's certain blood markers that we look at just to see what their inflammation levels are like, how they deal with sugar. We want to know how they store iron, what their nutritional status is like. So we have the whole picture of what their blood chemistry looks like. We create a personalized plan for them. We help them how their bowels are working, start helping with adrenals and hormones. We look at the whole picture. And then when they're ready, we go into the actual retreat phase, which is 5 days of, we supply all the nutrition that they need, all the supplements, the dry skin brushing, all the detox supplies, like everything's packaged there. And we're in contact with the people for the entire week. So they're able to message our coaches and message our team at any point if they're feeling off. But it's basically more of like a fasting mimicking routine that they're following. So I know that you're very well versed, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard many of your speakers speak about the power of fasting, but going into autophagy is really the most powerful way to reverse any condition. So it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, not only just for mental health, but for gut health and how you're fighting any disease. So that week is like a fasting mimicking plan, but you're adding in all the things to make sure you're actually excreting things properly and you're not constipated for the entire week or not sweating properly. So we go through all of that in the intensive week. And then after that is where we have to transition. So you don't just go from an immersive week-long retreat into, great, now we can eat now and we feel amazing. Let's go out for dinner and celebrate and do all these things. So there's a transition phase. We check blood work again. We want to know where your body is at, and then create more of a lifestyle routine for you. So maybe that would mean okay, now that you've fasted for this long, 1 day a week of fasting seems pretty easy once you've done 5 days. So we have more of a long-term plan. We set up a schedule based on what their goals are. Maybe their goals are to be extremely athletic and we want to work on muscle building now, or maybe they have another 20 pounds that they want to lose. So we can help with that. So it's really personalized to what their goals are in that maintenance phase to make sure that they're the accelerated week, but they're now maintaining it and even accelerating even further.
Do you still see patients one-on-one not in a retreat style?
I do. Yep.
I'm only asking because while this, and I'm with you on the effectiveness, right? The immersion experience, the get in and like clean it all up as like quickly as possible and kind of get on a better path. Some people, obviously, the ones that are new to you and they're just learning about you today, whether it be on my podcast or on YouTube or whatever, or even some of your own people who followed you, but maybe you don't know them yet. They bought your book and they know of you, but they haven't reached out yet. Sometimes people want to sort of work up to doing that by having some sessions or working with you. So I just wondered, because some people don't work with, like Naisha doesn't work with anybody, which is why she's trained all you guys, because she doesn't see patients, right? And I'm still seeing people, but I'm doing the same in terms of like training people. So that eventually, if I'll have much less time one-on-one. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that you're still available right now for one-on-one sessions. And I'm guessing because you're doing virtual retreats, you're doing telemedicine too, right?
Exactly. Yep. No, I think that's extremely powerful. A lot of things that you can teach within their own home, but you're right. Not everyone's ready to jump in just because that's my personality of like, get me quick now, get me feeling amazing. Right. And get me back to life and feeling top of my game. Just because that's my personality doesn't mean that that's everyone else's. So everyone has different paces of how they want to heal or even what their body's able to. Like if you are filled with, toxicity, like we said, and you have a lot of going on in your system, it might be too much for them. So I take everyone like where they're at and create a plan from there. So that's, we do the one-on-one as well.
Okay. Just making sure. And you also wrote a book. You want to talk a little bit about your book?
Sure. Yeah. So I will have my second book out actually this spring called Cancer Doesn't Own You. It's 160 ways to boost health and beat cancer daily. And so what I did was I wrote down 160 of the top questions that all cancer patients ask me. It's actually a time-saving thing for me. So if I get the same question again and again and again, here you go, just read my book. So it comes down to, I break it down into 4 categories. So food as medicine is going to be the first one, like the common things, even looking at individual genetics too. Like, can some people tolerate coffee? Can some people not? Like, what is their, what foods will help with inflammation and joint pain and even like medication side effects? What can they do that's natural that won't interact with their drugs? Looking at stress, that's a huge one. We know that high cortisol is going to affect tumor suppressor genes. And so if you have the BRCA1 or BRCA2, we know that stress is a big deal. So all the things that you can do on a daily basis to help support your health, your lifestyle, and really like change around that cancer, the way cancer is expressed in the body. So this book I'm very excited about. It's in very layman terms for anyone. They don't need to have a medical degree to read this. So it's question answer the way that it's written. So you can look at the table of contents and just say, okay, I have, I don't know, I get asked a lot to like, why is my vagina itchy? Like something that's like things that people don't really want to ask out loud to like the 10th visit with me. So they can look at my book and they can see all the answers to the common health issues that comes up.
And that's your second book.
That's my second book. Yeah. And then my first book is Live Longer and Stronger with Breast Cancer. So I really dug into the different types of breast cancers, what they can do alongside chemotherapy to help protect their system before and after radiation or throughout radiation, preparing for surgeries. There's so much that women can do to help along their breast cancer journey right from the first time of diagnosis, even if they know that they have the BRCA gene or if they have a genetic predisposition, it's in their family, things that they can apply right away just to help lower their risk of the cancer growing.
Awesome. So I have to ask, because, you kind of know me a little. What do you recommend for people? How do you deal with the emotional piece of that? You mentioned woo. It's coffee enemas. I don't think that's woo at all. But and I heard you say acupuncture and chiropractic and colon hydrotherapy, all of which I've covered on the show and do and promote. And so where I'm just curious on the terrain 10, on the 10th one, how like what just give me a synopsis of like where you think the percentage of people who come in, that's like a big piece. And then how do you handle it? And what do you tell people to do while they're on retreat or after they're done with their retreat?
So you know what is the most, and I never would have thought this would be the case, but when I first started out, I ran my own clinic. I was actually a colon hydrotherapist. So I would be doing colonics on patients, and it was actually a really great way for me to assess, like, how's their food being broken down? Do they have candida? Like, what is actually going on in their body? So it's a very not only therapeutic way to see what's going on, but it's a great assessment. So to get back to your question, we would just be, like the patients would be kind of like awkward. Like, I had this tube in my bum and I don't want to really talk with you right now. I just want to like pretend this is not happening. But then after we kind of like you're looking at like, okay,
all because I wouldn't shut up on the table. Like I did like a series of like, I don't know how many with before I moved up here to Ojai and bought the house, but I was going, regularly, and literally like I'd get in the door and I'd be like, blah, 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 which at one point I said, I think I might need to be quiet because I think I'm stressing myself. I'm not allowing things to just relax and move through me. So it's like the opposite. We would just talk. And it was also because, we were not wearing masks because we were talking about the state of the world. Right. So we're like, oh, someone to talk to about this situation who's on the same page. Right. So sorry. That's why I made that face. I was like, quiet. That's not my... Oh my God, okay. I wouldn't shut up. Go ahead.
That's so funny. Okay. So the people that I generally saw were just like uber embarrassed and just didn't want to deal with it. But then it was interesting. As soon as they started talking about different traumas that they've had in their lifetime or stressful events or like releasing, the amount of shit that came out of these people were like unbelievable. So you see that enteric nervous system, the mind-body connection. So it was like a mental detox, but in a physical way that was happening. So now the colon hydrotherapist that I have as part of the retreat, I'm like, you have to get in there and ask those tough questions, bring up the emotional things like why do they think that they're sick? Why, like what's going on? Because their body just has a much more powerful way to release toxicity and like literally releasing shit when you're emotionally releasing. And a lot of people are just not wanting to talk about it, or they just kind of like bury it deep. And you even hear about women. I've had a patient who had cervical cancer. She's young. She's only 27. And she actually like blocked out that she was raped when she was younger. So she actually didn't even remember that happened, but it came out recently. And she's like, you see that connection of where the cancer is and different traumas in different areas of the body. So yeah, huge connection there. And colon hydrotherapy is one tool. A lot of just talk therapy. We do acupuncture, looking at doing points on like their parasympathetic nervous system. So like in the ear, auricular medicine, right? So anything just kind of like opens up those gates to allow that release, and for people just to be allowed to cry and be allowed to let go. It's so healing, right? Like if that's not part of the picture, like you can't fully heal. There's no way, right? If you're not acknowledging that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey working with cancer patients and being able to look at the commonalities emotionally of where the cancer lives, like breast cancer being a very much of like, I think it's being sucked dry, like overgiving in place of yourself and not nurturing, not having self-nurturing, and then having ovarian and endometrial cancer patients who have a lot of anger, so a ton of anger and are gripping, like white knuckling, getting like really the left brain kind of like linear, like they're in this masculine mode and they're really devoid and not really embodying their femininity or that feminine part of themselves for whatever reason in response to whatever happened to them. But like seeing just the different cancers has been really interesting for me to, look at what is inside, and then the amount of readiness they are to deal with it. And some of them are not at all. And some of them like are not at all. And they are completely unaware and they aren't willing to look at their stuff. And so it's a very interesting, like, I didn't think I'd be here either. If you would have told me that I'd be working with cancer patients, I'd be like, why? Because cancer is literally, and Naisha and I, she agrees on this. It's ultimate disconnect. The emotional root of cancer is giving up. And so I don't want to convince someone to live. I want to, so for me, there's a line of, I will work with people who want to live, not the ones who want to fight or defend their want to get out of here. Like, okay, cool. Like, move on to the next life. Like, that's okay. We're all going to transition. So I'll, but I don't want to force or convince someone to live. So if there's no desire or deeper passion, life force underneath that.
Yeah.
No, because I've had some of those.
Yeah. I can tell within the first 15 minutes of meeting a new patient whether they really want this or it's their loved one that's dragging them in. Even within the first minute, you can tell, and you can see the fuel in them and the fire of like, I want this badly. And those are the people that you see the shifts with. Because if it's the ones that's like, yeah, I've just kind of like learned to live with this, or my son thinks it's a good idea for me to come here. You get that, okay, they don't really want to try everything. So
yeah, they're not committed to themselves. They're doing it out of obligation, which means they're not going to get the results that they want because this isn't what they want. Yeah, I think that's a great way to pre-qualify and to discern who is the right people to spend time on. And that's no disrespect for those of you that are out there. I mean, anyone who's listening to my podcast, they're pretty like, they're wanted. They're like, I want it. They're on fire about that. But everyone who's listening, those of you who have people in your life and you're trying to shove my podcast down their throat, stop, because they're not like, you may be excited, but they're not. And they have to want it. They have to ask for it. I did a meeting during the first year, 2020, that said, if they're not asking, they're not listening. So stop trying to force feed people who are not asking information they're not going to take. So, but I love that this is an option for people. You as a physician, because again, I was like, I don't even have any physicians to refer to because Naisha doesn't take anybody and I need physicians, which is why I started reaching out to you guys. Because I'm like, okay, I need people I can send people to, and they want people they can work with because they hear Naisha and they go, well, okay, how do I find one of the doctors? I even had my massage therapist, who's also a therapist, reach out to me recently and say, I have a patient with cancer and she needs this kind of stuff. Where do I send her?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So,
and it's actually surprising how many doctors do not look at the whole terrain and look at the whole person. So many medical doctors and oncologists say, doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you do, just do this drug and doesn't matter, like nothing else matters. And it blows my mind. Like, to think that it just came out of nowhere and this pharmaceutical is what's going to cure you or save you at the end of the day. Like, so people are starting to wake up and say, okay, maybe it had to do with this trauma that I've had when I was young, or maybe it had something to do with like all the chemicals I've been around. I think people are starting to see that, and it's nice because a lot of people are actually coming into the clinic and more questions and wanting that help and support. And they see the change. Like, they go through chemo feeling amazing. They go through radiation feeling incredible and healthier than they did before cancer. So it's it's really actually exciting for me to see that process too, where they're living their best lives literally after a cancer diagnosis. So it's empowering to see that.
Yeah, I think it's a wake-up call, and it's an opportunity, and some will take it and some won't. It'll be the end or it'll be the beginning, and the beginning of a new life. I had somebody, and I know she listens to the show, hopefully still, and she wanted to negotiate changing this one little thing so she could go back to her life. And I said, no. Cancer is telling you can never go back to that life. That life needs to die, and you need a new life. And literally, and so cancer's like, hello, you're not listening to me. So stop trying to negotiate going back to the way life was. The way life was created this situation.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Right. So we're on the same page. So Dr. Lori is a resource, guys, for you to use as a physician. Dr. Lori, LORI.ca. Very easy to remember. DRLORI, drlori.ca. And again, whether it be a retreat style healing that you do at home or go to her clinic or you work with her one-on-one, she is a resource now. So when you ask me, hey, who's a Dr. Nation doctor? Dr. Lori. So make sure and then buy her book, her first book, and get in line to buy her second book. Follow her on the social media channels. Anything else? Any last words of wisdom, Dr. Lori, or things that you want to add for people to listen?
Yeah, I would just love everyone to know that there's always help out there and there's hope for you. So even if you've tried everything, there's always one more thing that you can do. So stay hopeful and surround yourself with love and empowering people around you with positivity, and you're going to do amazing. So thank you, JJ, for having me on this show. This is lots of fun.
Thanks, Dr. Lori.